Welcome to the Counsel Code. I'm Charles Kaprelian from Volody, the AI-powered CLM platform designed to simplify contracting for legal teams. Today, we're honored to host Lucy Bassli, founder of InnoLaw Group, author of CLM Simplified and former AGC at Microsoft, and a recognized thought leader in legal ops and contracting. Lucy, at Volody, we're building on these principles, bringing clarity, speed, and AI-enabled collaboration to contracting. We're thrilled to have you and would love to hear from you as we continue through today's discussion. You've been called one of the sharpest minds in legal ops. Can you take us through your journey? How did your passion for optimizing contracts develop? And from your perspective, what broke CLM for so many organizations?
Oh, so many in there in that question. Thanks to whoever called me the sharpest mind. That person's brilliant. Let's find them. Ops is a growing and evolving field, but it certainly had is having its heyday, or maybe had its heyday over the last, I'd say, 10 years or so. There are a lot of us doing legal operations before we knew it had a name. So let's think of it as those, especially in-house corporate law department attorneys who have a bit of a itch for efficiency, who love data, who love process. I used to call us kind of the freakish unicorns. So we've been doing it. We're always trying to find better, more efficient ways to get our work done. And then realize, hey, there's a kind of a band of us out there, and law departments need this. And at the same time, of course, there was the drive to be data-driven, no pun intended. There was a push, certainly, to be data-driven. The explosion of technology and the move to the cloud was happening. The need for technology was pushing, law departments to also be more tech-enabled, and they just needed those different skill sets than traditionally in-house had. And so legal ops kind of really fits that requirement. So with me, it was a very natural, completely unplanned progression. I was living my dream job at Microsoft. I'm a commercial transactions lawyer, lived and breathed contracts, and my job was supporting procurement specifically. And at a company like Microsoft, that's about 17 billion and change a year of spend, 10 years ago. I don't even know what that number would be today. And that translates into a ton of contracts. We had a team of about 20 of us. And I oversaw that team that just, the volume was crazy. The chief procurement officer, of course, used these loving words to me of, it's death by paralegal over there. I hope you're here to fix it. That was somewhere within my first week or two on the job. There's just no predictability. There was no predictability. That's probably the best way to say it. I don't want to say it was a complete mess or chaos. It's an amazing big company that knows how to get stuff done, but it wasn't done efficiently, for sure, and there was no predictability for the business, so there was a lot of frustration. That became my goal. They needed predictability, and I needed predictability, and this whole it depends, and one 4-page statement of work can take 5 weeks, while a 20-page master service agreement is taking 3 weeks, 2 weeks. There was just nothing. There's no predictability at all. It's my favorite word because other words get kind of overused and confused, and this is very accurate to say I owe my business partners at the company predictability on what they can expect when they contact legal for contracting help. That became my mission. So I did that for 13 years when I was at Microsoft, and every day was an evolution, and we changed a ton, and we created templates and streamlined processes, and we outsourced live contract review at a time when that wasn't happening. The only thing that was outsourced was kind of executed contracts review, really like data projects. We implemented a new technology, which back then was not nearly as sexy as things are today, but we needed a new repository, and we did that, a global implementation of a new contracting repository. So all those bits and pieces, people, process, tools, I was doing that all day, every day, and really enjoyed that way more than the editing and redlining of yet another limits of liability provision. I'm happy to have had people on my team do that part. So that's the long story. It was just an evolution. And then came time to realize, wow, I can really help other legal teams do this. There's stuff I've learned here that every legal team seems to struggle with the same thing, regardless of size, industry, or geography. So I set out what I thought to be on my own, and I'll kind of just be an advisor, but around me grew a little business, and we've been at it about 7 years now.
Lucy, those were excellent insights. On previous podcasts, you've emphasized that many CLM initiatives fail due to unreadiness and misaligned expectations. What's the single biggest predictor of success in your mind?
The single biggest predictor, I'm going to say, is an appetite for change. That to me is probably more important than being tech savvy. It is more important than knowing every latest widget and gadget that's out there. I think there needs to be an understanding and appreciation that change is hard, and 99% of CLM systems fail because of the lack of change management and that lack of readiness, as we call it.
At Volody, and we agree with that, at Volody we start with a maturity assessment. Similar to what you mentioned earlier, people, processes, and tools, we mirror the CLM Launchpad approach and then rapidly pilot workflows using our AI-assisted templates. You recently spoke on Brief Encounters about legal teams drowning in AI noise. How should teams realistically use AI in CLM?
Well, I do love that question, and I'm glad none of these were pre-scripted with me. I love that was the right question to ask right now, because we're seeing this explosion of AI and CLM. Every prior existing CLM company is now trying to incorporate AI, is incorporating AI, some better, some worse, some really wisely, some kind of randomly, and the buyers are completely confused. In-house teams are simply overwhelmed. We like to approach it in a bit of a methodical way. So we don't believe in, I need AI, I need a CLM with AI, what should I buy? Which is a question we get day in and day out. So we have to walk back the question and say, I think what you're trying to say is you want to automate some of your contracting processes, and you're curious and interested in seeing if there's some automation opportunities leveraging AI. Did I correctly rephrase that? And usually yes. So our approach to AI, really in helping clients think through it, we like to look at it across the life cycle of the contracting life cycle. We have our 8 phases that we have labeled as our view and perspective on what every contract goes through and lives through in its life. We think AI plays a different function across those phases of the life cycle. And in some phases, it's extremely helpful, extremely productive, and has revolutionized that particular phase of contracting, while in other phases, it still isn't. It just isn't there yet. So we think without having that kind of a forced mechanism to drive decision-making in a nuanced way, that's where disappointment ends up happening all the time. People are trying to do too much, unclear of their problems and pain points they're actually trying to solve. They're doing it anyway with CLM technology, and now there's this added layer of complexity with AI. So they're just kind of throwing more tech after tech without having a clear vision of what it is they're trying to solve specifically. There's a ton of opportunity across the life cycle. So you'll get your chance to automate, you'll get your chance to use AI. Let's just be very crisp on where you want to use it. You're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, and where you're going to be most capable of implementing that change to the people and the processes and the other technologies that maybe interact in that phase. So we like to be nuanced and focused.
We concur again. At Volody, one of the things our AI engine does is it suggests clauses and risks insights. But signing or decisions on the contracts, the master services agreement, whatever document is being created or edited, remain with the customer's team. We want AI to enhance judgment, not override it, and not replace it. Our AI offers fallback clauses, pre-approved alternative language, and context tagging, so legal retains control and agility without getting bogged down in the red lines and bogged down in the noise, which is similar to what you just mentioned. Drawing from your Microsoft days and your consulting experience, where does CLM deliver the most value? Is it speed? Is it risk reduction? Is it visibility? Is it another area?
Well, I'm gonna poke at the definition of CLM. So I've been on the soapbox for almost a decade, and nobody's catching on, but I can't help myself, right? CLM is not the technology. Everybody gets so caught in the technology. But I get it. It's like CRM. We use that for the tech, but it's not. It's customer relationship management, contract lifecycle management. Similarly, is a series of complex processes, people, and different types of tools that are playing in it. But I understand what we're talking about really is that automation, I'm going to say, of the contracting life cycle. That's kind of the first thing I need to always double check when somebody asks me about CLM tech in general. Are you talking about really automating what I think some circles call the end-to-end CLM, right? The end-to-end contracting life cycle, as opposed to those contracting related technologies which are popping up all over like crazy, especially with the advent of AI, and they're focusing on specific aspects of the life cycle. Back to the earlier comment. But to try to give you a short and quick answer, when I think about contract lifecycle management and that automation, an end-to-end system, I think it's that workflow. I think it's the movement of the four corners of the document across the phases and across complex enterprises, rather than the deep focus inside the four corners of the document. I feel like there are solutions that are great at either, but not necessarily equally good at both. And living inside the four corners, that's the clauses, the redlining, the editing, the templating, the playbooking, the working on the words, right? The lawyer stuff that most of us have done for a long time. Whereas CLM, or end-to-end real life cycle management, is that intake, the triaging, the assignment to the right person in the legal department, bouncing back to the business if it shouldn't be going to legal. Then from legal, where does it go next? And that actual process and automating that, which, by the way, requires a ton of pre-work, because you have to know how you want it to flow. The system isn't going to tell you that. It may have a default, guaranteed that will immediately be wrong, because every company is very, it's a special snowflake. So I think of CLMs, I really think about that entire workflow. I want the whole thing running smoothly. Let's leave it with the words inside the four corners separate, or phase 2 implementation.
We again agree. We're certainly aligned on our perspectives in how we work with customers. The organization, the governance, the people, the approvals, the flow, as opposed to focusing on the inside of the four corners to start with. These are things we see customers, they generally don't know when we start working with them. They find out as we're working with them. Boy, I didn't know that was happening. So what we end up seeing is a minimum of 2 to 3x quicker cycle times, reduction in cycle times, and a significant reduction in missed obligations. It's one of the things most of our customers aren't aware of, obligations in contracts. Those outcomes align directly with what you described. And in Contract Heroes, you discussed how to evaluate vendors, not just product, but people in alignment. What are your top criteria for evaluating vendors?
We obviously have to understand the functionality and the technology. I will say there's some differentiation, but in the top kind of layer of technology that we're seeing on a regular basis, the differentiation is pretty minimal. They are similarly good, I would say, at most things, to keep it kind of easy to follow. That's where the people behind that tech becomes much more important. So we're a niche business. Everything we do is live and breathe CLM, people, process, and tools. Our job is to be agnostic but opinionated. That's exactly how we are. So how we form our opinion is a bit of our secret sauce, for sure. But I will say that it is equally the tech capabilities and functionality and integration, by the way, capabilities, that is equal to us with the implementation process. Do they use a third party? Do they do it all internally? How long is the expected implementation claimed to be? What is the expected lift on the business, on the customer that that the vendor thinks will happen? Post-implementation customer success. We're very keen to understand what happens after go live, what kind of support is provided, what's extra, what's included, and if it's included, who's really doing that? Is that also offloaded to a third party? Additional pricing, there's the services part of it. that too many are ignoring. They're trying to sell CLM tech as if it's SaaS and any other SaaS. It just isn't. Oh, and by the way, there's a reason that all the big SaaS companies also have enormous professional services, either inside or externally. CLM is the same. Nobody likes to talk about that. Nobody talks about it, and the only CLM professional services we really hear about are implementation. That is purely technical. I'm not diminishing the importance of that technical implementation service. That's the piping, that's critical. The data migration efforts, critical. But the actual professional service of, why do you do it that way? What do you mean you don't know who your approvers are? Well, wait a minute, you still want to review every NDA, even if it's a 2-page standard NDA that somebody pulled off from the best practices side of the internet? I mean, and the list goes on and on and on and on of all of the why questions. The why questions need to come with, oh, and because answers from advisors, from people who know contracting. That's what's missing. So there are CLM tech companies that do a better job at understanding that holistic service and understanding that their technology can't be successful without professional services. So we look at the vendors who appreciate and understand that this is the holistic complexity of CLM, and then you're not just lighting up another tool.
We concur again. At Volody, we sincerely emphasize our legal first team, our flexible implementation models, and our senior level engagement, which is critical to us. Because we agree it's not just a plug and play solution. There is a significant amount of pre-work and work that has to occur during the implementation as findings are uncovered and customers start to realize what's really going on in their legal and or contract lifecycle management flows. Our recent partnership with SMBC, LexisNexis, and AMT in APJ underscores that our commitment. You've called out some industry's worst practices on CLMs. What should legal teams stop doing today?
Oh my God, stop doing nonsense work. Stop doing nonsense work. No lawyer goes to law school so that then they can spend their days reviewing NDAs. Or frankly, reviewing the exact same template MSA over and over again. At some point, we got to kind of call BS on that. That is not what we should be getting paid for in-house. We are expensive resources. That is a misuse of corporate resources, if you ask me, to have these huge corporate legal commercial contracting teams. And they are just doing the same types of contracts over and over and over again. We're seeing that still a lot. It is still kind of everywhere because the default is we need more lawyers. We need more commercial lawyers. Commercial's growing. We need more lawyers. Unfortunately, that isn't scalable, and that's just not going to continue and survive, especially not with the pressure AI is bringing, similar to the pressure that outsourcing brought 10, 15 years ago, similar to the pressure that in general automation and moving to the cloud brought. AI is now putting a laser focus on that nonsense work, like outsourcing in many ways did. This seems different though. There was definitely a FOMO that did not exist with outsourcing the way that FOMO exists today with AI. So lawyers need to stop wasting their time on repeatable recurring contracts that we could predict 9 times out of 10 how they're going to land, and they need to assume smart risk so that the 10th one that falls through the cracks is going to be okay. At the end of the day, most of these are actually commercial risks. These are business risks most of the time in typical commercial contracting. I feel like we've overblown this job, and I did it for a long time, and I understand the importance of good negotiation and complex agreements. That's the fun stuff. That's what we want to be doing, or we should want to be doing. I see a nice thick layer of lawyers that are doing work that really, if you just step back and say, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if you don't touch this contract? Usually it's money. I know, data privacy, security, I hear it all the time. But Lucy, but what if? And in this SAL, the vendor can put in all these naughty words. Yep, yeah, they can. How much is the deal? What's the nature of the services? And can you empower the business to do a little bit more and read a little bit more? That's where automation will help. I think automation will really help empower the business and get legal to step out. But I can go on this topic forever. We definitely don't have enough time. Let's summarize it. They need to really stop doing the work that just does not make a difference to the business. It just doesn't. There's a lot of that.
And your guiding principles directly align with ours, which is why we built the Volody solution to avoid those traps. Examples would be standardized clauses, restricted clauses. We don't want certain organizational personnel editing clauses that were vetted and approved so long ago that we can't change them. We want guided reviews that are enabled by automated workflow, that the customer now fully understands how that workflow is going, who is approving, who is reviewing, who should be consulted with. And we want to manage the exceptions in a transparent manner, but also in a manner that enables the workforce to do what they really need to do.
That's right.
In your opinion, or in your point of view, how do you see the future for CLM and AI in 2 to 3 years?
I think we're going to have more and more focused point solutions as in different parts of the life cycle, the contracting life cycle. I think there will be interesting acquisitions for sure that have already started that will continue to play out. I'm hoping buyers are going to get a little bit more focused on the pain points they're trying to solve and maybe set aside an enterprise-wide, all contracts are going to go through this one CLM system dream. I think that's a dream. I'm going to rain on a lot of parade and burst a lot of bubbles, but end-to-end CLM for all contracts across an enterprise, just don't see it happening successfully.
Understood. And we're evolving as well because we agree with what you just said. We're expanding our reporting. We're integrating our full stack in a more effective and broader manner. We're moving forward with next-gen generative AI assist. And we want voluntary CLM, meaning you choose when, not the enforcement of the technology. We want customers to be in charge of the technology and to focus on those things that make the most difference in their contracting and legal document world. Quick question for you. What's the most underrated part of CLM? Is it a top resource? Is it one tip for new teams? What do you think?
So underrated part of CLM, I don't even know if there is one. I kind of feel like most of CLM's a little bit overrated. I feel like the expectations are so high and the sales pitches are so promising that I'm not sure I've seen, this is maybe a sad commentary, I'm not sure I've seen somebody shocked, surprised, and delighted with something they didn't expect. That's kind of an unfortunate reality that we're seeing too often. I mean, I would say if I had to pick the most underrated is really the ability to automate approvals in a smart way that gets legal out of some sort of a default approver all the time, even though they just finished negotiating. I think that's underrated. I see negotiation and approvals and signature being all jammed together, but I like being able to focus on approvals as a mechanism to say, hey, legal, guess what? You don't even have to touch this stuff. Once you've done your part, and maybe we need to flip approvals and negotiation phase and have approvals come first and really get the business to do their part. So if I had to pick one, I'm going to say that would be the one that is underappreciated because the technology is definitely there. The processes, of course, aren't clear and nobody has answers. But that part of the tech, I think, could be a game changer if appropriately applied and deployed.
You've certainly provided some excellent insights. We thank you for your candor, perspective, and showing how to move from CLM theory to real outcomes. For our listeners, I said this early on, that Lucy is clearly one of the sharpest minds in the legal law space. She may not agree, we do, and we invite you to check out Lucy's CLM Simplified and InnoLaw Launchpad. We'd also invite you to visit us at Volody.com and learn how our AI CLM can co-pilot your contracting in a far smarter manner. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.